Welcome to another episode of CS Stories. This week, we are going to explore what robotics can also be used to. And I've told you a lot about the uses of robotics for science, that you can use it to find wrecks, that you can look at hydrothermal vents, that you can look at corals, that you can explore under the ice. So there's a lot of scientific applications for robots. But of course, the scientific application is just a small market, and definitely companies are not building these fancy vehicles just for us scientists. The market would be way too small. So actually, also some viewers wondered what are the main markets that are driving underwater technology. And for that, one of the main drivers really is the offshore industry. And offshore industry is basically everything that is happening offshore in the waters of our ocean. Any resources, extraction, anything like that. And what comes first to my mind is obviously oil and gas. So the stuff that we hope to phase out a little bit in the future, but they're really it. The underwater robotics was the enabler to enable drilling into the sea floor, providing operations support, uh, handling all kind of lines, pipelines, anchors, etc. So this is really the big part of the offshore industry, and still nowadays the offshore industry is really a big driver for any development in the subsea robotic field. And we are slowly replacing oil and gas with offshore wind, which is also heavily depending on subsea robotics, where you need to put the foundations right, where you need to check the foundations of the structures, where you do maintenance on these structures. So there's a lot to do in this industry, and they are a big player. So typically they have at least two big work class ROVs on their vessel, and if an offshore company buys ROVs, they go, okay, we buy 10 or we buy 40 big ROVs, and that's not like a little science institute like, okay, we want one ROV, and please make it very special for us. So you can see this is really the big market where the big money is. And it's not only remotely operated vehicles there, but of course it's all also autonomous underwater vehicles. And there we really come into the business of seafloor survey. For example, before you build anything in the sea, same as on land, you need to do a survey regarding archaeology, that you don't damage any unknown shipwrecks, or you need to investigate the ground for its geotechnical properties, so that if you put a structure there, the foundation is actually holding. So this is where marine robotics really comes in handy to do all these investigations. And second of all, when you put structures in there, like for example pipelines, then subsea robotics is able to control these structures. See, is the pipeline still in the same place where you left it? Is everything fine? Are things corroding? All are these are the main applications. Then, of course, there's a second big market, and that is what you maybe don't have so much in mind when you think about underwater robots, and that is inspections, but on land. And we have a lot of artificial water filled structures, for example, in power plants. If you think about the big pipes in hydroelectric electric dams, they need to be controlled, they need to be checked. So there's specialized companies going in there with specialized ROVs and AUVs to check these and make this more efficient, because of course if you do that with a robot, you don't need to empty that entire pipe of the water and lose a lot of time for producing energy, but you can just stop the flow, go in with a robot, and check your pipes. Another application of that is, for example, also robotics use in nuclear power plants, where you have the fuel cooling down in pools for quite a long time, and there you use also marine robotics to actually manipulate all these things and move them around. But one of the main drivers for underwater technology has always been, of course, the military. And this is the part of which we are often not that proud of, that this is such a direct link of the military to the marine robotics field. But yeah, you can't deny it. The first autonomous underwater vehicles were just torpedoes. And after all, a lot of AUVs nowadays are nothing else than torpedoes that don't carry a bomb, but actually carry a scientific sensor payload. So the basic principle is very similar, but of course, the military also uses marine robotics for much more than just torpedoes. So complex systems can be used to covertly put mines on the seafloor, for example. Of course, the military also uses AUVs in a more scientific way, which is either for actual scientific research regarding ocean temperature, for example, but a lot is actually to discover mines because you can use them to efficiently map large areas of the seafloor with a sonar to actually detect the location of mines on the seabed. So they are very used a lot on in any mine countermeasures. And what they're also using our AUVs for is, for example, to go into enemies' terrain and have cameras out. Basically, what you would do with a submarine, but without risking personnel. So you can see that marine technology and particularly marine robotics is used throughout our society in many different ways, and that marine science is only one of the few applications. And actually, we're just one of the smaller markets for this whole business. So I hope this gives you a little bit of context of in which context we are working in and what are other applications for this technology. And with that, I want to thank you a lot for watching and have a nice day.